Hello, we're going to talk a little bit about arpeggios today and getting them to be nice and smooth. Now, I'm deliberately doing this and letting you see how I mess certain arpeggios up because I always struggled with arpeggios and I often still do. Anything that goes above the sort of 2 octave range with arpeggios are just very, very awkward, and there's some that are more awkward than others. Generally, if we've got a nice mixture between the black and the white notes, something like E major, for example, is quite nice. Because you've got that middle black note there that kind of anchors your hand and you kind of know where you're up to a little bit. But sometimes when you've got pure white notes, or worse for me, pure black notes, like E flat minor, which is what we're going to look at, it can be really quite difficult. So what I'm going to do is show you a few techniques that are going to help me personally. Hopefully I'm going to improve by the end of the video, but they still obviously need re-emphasizing and practicing. But also that might help you if you're struggling a little bit with these. And basically what we're talking about is E flat minor, or D sharp minor, but we're going to call it E flat minor. And we're going to do that as E flat, G flat, B flat, and then obviously it's E flat, B flat, E flat, G flat, B flat, and we're going to do it for the 4 octaves. Well, that's the aim that we're going to do. Now, if I take it slowly, it's fine. And similarly with the left hand, it's fine. But if I consider doing that faster, that kind of thing happens. And let's try it with the left hand. Marginally better. And if we, God forbid, we try that hands together, so. Oddly, sometimes it works better hands together. Sometimes the knowledge of using both hands together at the same time really does help. But basically, how do we get it smoother? How do we get it to work? Well, we've got to understand the point at which causes the problem. And this is the same with scales, but in a way, it's a bit trickier with arpeggios because it's to do with that turn. And the turn that we're talking about in the case of arpeggios is where the thumb goes under in the right hand, or in the left hand, the third finger, the middle finger, will go over. So we'll use the right hand because we might as well start with our more confident hand, and get off to a stronger start. And we're going to just recognize that that is going to be here. That's where it is. But whilst that's doing that turn under, the rest of the fingers need to find their position, their new position. Now, one of the best tips that I can give you for exercises and for learning any piece of music actually that's causing you difficulty is actually to make it harder for yourself. Because if you can make it harder for yourself, then what you'll do is you'll be able to just you'll naturally develop the skill to be able to pick up the actual technique. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the rhythm up slightly. So here's where the problem lies. There. That's where the problem. That's where it starts to become a problem. And we're going to just go 2 octaves for now. We're not going to build it up to 4 straight away. And then obviously the third finger goes over here. So that's the problem. But all our notes are even at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to just change the rhythm slightly so that we have to rush that underturning. We're not going to take it too fast. Notice I did it slightly differently on the way down because the turn was where the third finger goes over, so I had to. So I'm changing the rhythm up slightly, but the reason that I'm doing that is so that I can get used to this turn. Okay? See? It's not always right. Okay? is we're going to try doing it a few times over, but we're going to just sort of loosen the wrist up really, so that we can try and take out our need to be precise with it. So what we do is we naturally tense up really. When we want to hit notes, we naturally tense up, especially when we're talking about black notes, because they're a little bit thinner, so they require a little bit more effort to get some precision. But we want to get that precision without feeling like we're going, you know. So we're going to just sort of take some of that out of it and just sort of just do it a few times. Try and get the most rapid cross that you can. You know, they're not all going to be perfect, obviously, but and then when you've built that up a little bit, what you can do is start to consider the next two fingers in the sequence. So obviously we've got to, with E flat minor, what we're going to do is use fingers 2 and 3 on the G flat and B flat respectively each time. So we need to consider getting those into position when we turn our thumb under, even when we're doing it at that obscure rhythm. So so like that. I don't know if you can see that particularly well on the video, but you can see that hopefully that my fingers move roughly into position. And then what we're going to try and do is play them in succession. Okay, and what we're going to try and also do is take away some of the harshness of that dynamic. So oop, that was bad. Obviously you don't have to take it that fast, you can take it however fast or slow you need to start it, and then start to build up the tempo. And then you do exactly the same thing here, bearing in mind your rhythm might be slightly different going up, because obviously the cross is slightly different. And don't be ashamed of the fact that we've effectively taken it back to square one. Because obviously when you start learning piano, you do it for an octave, which is easy, you know. You do that. And then you start to develop it to 2 octaves, and then 3, and then obviously finish with 4. And you do it hands separately when you start learning as well. You don't tend to do hands together straight away. But that's okay, because what we're doing is we're actually perfecting and getting a skill that allows us to not only do these technical exercises, but they allow a much more virtuosic approach to playing anyway. So when you come across a piece of music that has rapid scales and rapid arpeggios, then these are much better techniques to employ than the academic approach of learning, which is very much focused on getting the right notes in a fairly fluid order like that. Which is fine, you know, because it teaches you a lot about theory, it starts to get your fingers working, it starts to get your stretches going and everything. But it doesn't necessarily loosen your fingers up the correct way. You know, there are so many other ways that we can develop. So I may very well be able to do a better E flat now, just for the sake of those 10 minutes that I've just been trying. So oh, it was coming down hands together there, that was tricky. But yeah, that's really that's a simple approach really that you can do with arpeggios. Just fiddle about with the rhythms a little bit, but and try and work out where that cross comes in. Same tactic with scales, you know, if you want to improve any of your scales, and work on figuring that cross out and where to position your fingers for the new position.